Hi, talking again more about dating in my early 60s. And I was in the two groups, at Celebrate Atlanta and the Christian Singles group. So one time I was with the Christian Singles group. Somebody had a boat. We were out on the Lake Lanier in up north of Atlanta. And um, I met this guy actually when we were floating around in the water. That's when I met him, and his name was Tom. Um, Not the same Tom I mentioned that passed away recently. Um, he's still alive, this one. Anyway, so I met him. That's how I met him, and we went out a couple times. I remember going to a Mexican, really crowded Mexican restaurant. Must have been Cinco de Mayo. And he took me out. He had a pontoon boat that took me out once or twice on that. Um, anyway, there was this thing coming up. Now, there was this lady named Meg, and I had met her at one of the Christian gatherings they used to do every so often. And my friend Jack actually used to organize that. I'm pretty sure he was one of the organizers of this thing where we would meet up and sit at tables and have little discussions. And it was social and spiritual. We would have like, Christian based discussions, but we would eat and drink some wine. And um, anyway, that's how I met Meg. And Meg was like at least 15 years younger than me. And so much fun, really sweet person. She is like I like to think of her as the well, she was a nanny, tutor, Mary Poppins type. She actually dressed like Mary Poppins for Halloween one time. But really sweet, pretty girl, and so much fun. A ball of energy. I mean, she had so much energy, unbelievable. She loved to dance, and she was just always a good time. Really, really sweet. She had that hippie spirit about her, even though she was too young to be a hippie. I think her mother may have been. And anyway, I loved her. She was a sweetheart. And that's when I met her was around the time that she got to meet all of these other people and came into that crowd. And anyway, it was her birthday. She was turning 50. Now I'm into my 60s, close to 65, I think. And she was just turning 50, but she was having this special party because there was this thing going on. It was called Dardenella. It was something that traveled around the country, and they would find a good venue to do it at. And where it was going to be in Atlanta was at this historical house where the author who wrote the Brer Rabbit tales for children that are very famous, classic. Hope you've heard of them. Maybe you read them to your kids. Um, anyway, the author, it was his house, and it was, is in like the middle of Atlanta, and it's been, it's a historically preserved place and all, and it has some grounds there still, the yard and all. And so we we were supposed to dress up like the Great Gatsby era, the 20s, and we dressed up like that. And anyway, I invited this guy, Tom, to go with me. And there was 6 women and 4 men. And um, we all dressed up like that. I was so amazed at the men. Um, I mean, I was surprised that this guy, Tom, was willing to go and get an outfit to wear because you're supposed to dress up like the 20s, right? And that these 4 guys, how awesome is that? That they actually, got together a cool outfit, the bow ties and the suspenders and um, those kind of hats they wore. And um, anyway, we went and it was a blast. It was like one of the best times I've ever had in my whole life. You know, it was beautiful, sunny, gorgeous day. They put out a dance floor out on the lawn, and there was a big, like a band playing that kind of jazzy type of Charleston music, and they gave us lessons to do the Charleston and the um, what's it called, Black Bottom or the Peabody, the different dances. We did lessons for that, and everybody was dressed up like that, and then we had a picnic, and it was so cool. And then we did the little tour of the house, and there was a tour guide who told us a story, which is awesome. It's called the Wrens Nest, the house, because there was a Wrens Nest that was, you know, right there, and there was actually one in the mailbox on that day, um, and we got so many pictures and everything. Um, it turned out that it ended up raining late in the afternoon. It started pouring, and we all just ran up on the porch of this house, and we danced on the porch, and we were all wet and everything. We didn't care, you know. We already had our fun out in the sunshine, and we were just dripping wet dancing on the porch, having a blast. It was so much fun. But the story goes that this guy, I don't remember his name, that's terrible. You could look it up. But he was a little redheaded kid, and he didn't have a, as I recall, he didn't have a dad. He might have been like illegitimate or something. I'm not sure, but um, yeah, I think he was either illegitimate or his dad was never like approved by the family, you know, because he was like a low class kind of white trash kind of guy. Um, so anyway, he was kind of an outcast. He was born and raised in this house, but the his grandfather was very rich and had the plantation and all the slaves and all that stuff. But so he was, this house was like given to the his mother in the city. And you know, I don't remember if he had a dad or not, but he was a redheaded kid, and I, you know, because he was kind of, you know, not accepted into his class and to his family, his, you know, grandfather and all that, that he didn't have any friends, and they used to make fun of him because of his red hair, and you know, and because of his dad, or his either he didn't have a dad or his dad was not, you know, he was somebody that they made fun of. Anyway, so he ended up, he used to play with, because he didn't have friends, because people just made fun of him in town, that he used to play with the little slave kids on the plantation that his grandfather owned. And those were his playmates, because the other white kids in town, they wouldn't play with him. So he used to hang out there, and he enjoyed it. And you know, he hung out with those slave families, and he heard all these Brer Rabbit stories from the old slave guys telling these stories, or one of them anyway would tell these stories to the kids at night. And he would be there hanging out all the time, and he just loved those stories, and he's the one that wrote them down and made the book and published them. So it was a really cool story. Anyway, we had a blast that time, and those people in the Christian singles group, uh, had fun with them, but a lot of it was kind of like that, where they were younger than me, and they used to really enjoy this dress up stuff, which, you know, I can do it once in a while, but I wasn't that much into it. It almost seemed like they were all cheerleaders when they were in high school or college or something, because that's the way they acted. And they had that kind of energy. They're always jumping around, all enthusiastic about everything. And I'm really not like that. I'm more laid back, mellow, and yeah, I like to dance, but I don't jump around, and I don't do so much of the costumes and stuff. And they were all younger than me. I didn't feel like I really fit in. I loved them all. They're all sweethearts, but I didn't feel like I fit in with that crowd so much. And one of the guys that came with us that night, I'm going to tell you about him. His name's Jeff, and he was kind of like the counterpart of my friend Steve in Celebrate Atlanta. I talked to you about him last time. Steve had so many girls, just friends, girls that loved to dance with him and hang out. And Jeff was in the Christian singles group was kind of his counterpart because same kind of deal with him. He had all these women that loved to hang out with him, and they were always taking pictures with him and stuff, and they called him uh, his girls, and all. But I wouldn't be a part of that. That's not my style, you know. Good for him, good for them, but not my style. I only need one guy, but I'm not doing the harem thing. They were not really a harem, but that's kind of what it looked like with the pictures that were posted all the time, and I wouldn't be a part of that. Um, Not because I don't think anybody was thinking bad about it. I just don't like the idea of 6, 8, 10, 12 women with one man. I don't like that idea. I don't go there. I don't like those kind of pictures. So I just need one. That's all, one at a time. Um, so good for Jeff, right? He was a sweet guy. I hung out with him a little bit. So other guys in that group that I want to mention that were some of my favorites was Richard was one, and Richard, sweet guy, met him Celebrate Atlanta. He was also in the Christian group. Um, I remember I met him at my very first meetup, and nice guy, good looking. I went to church with him a few times to his church, Presbyterian Perimeter Church in Norcross. Very nice church. Went there 2 or 3 times with him, and I think I remember his son was. I think his son was an associate pastor there, like a youth pastor or something. Anyway, we would have lunch with them. The son, the wife, they had a little adopted little black boy, and anyway, we would have lunch together a couple times afterwards. I remember one time I went with him to the corn maze. Uh, that was a lot of fun. Um, and we got lost in the corn maze, and that made it more fun, of course. It was a full moon night, and yeah, that was cool. Um, One and only time on the corn maze for me. I would do that again. A lot of fun. So the other guy is Jack. Jack, I really like Jack a lot, and I think we had a couple dates. I know we went out to dinner a couple times, hung out with him a little bit. I remember going to some game place, like playing lots, like an arcade, maybe like Dave and Buster's or something like that, hanging out with him all night there. And anyway, I really liked Jack a lot. Um, Really good, upright Christian man, and he was also a lot of fun. I enjoyed hanging out with him. Um, Nothing ever happened with that. Not sure why, but um, good man. Still my friend. Um, okay, so there was I'm gonna jump now, I guess, back to Celebrate Atlanta, more men. Okay, there was a guy named Jim, and I met him Celebrate Atlanta and danced with him. Real sweet, nice, good-looking guy. Uh, right about the same age as me, 1 or 2 years younger maybe. Um, he had this big farm outside of Atlanta, really big, nice, big farmhouse, and he had some animals. I mean, there was on the property next to him, they had llamas he had he had a potbelly pig, and he had rabbits and goats, um, chickens and whatever. He had the farm animals, and the llamas were cool. They would hang over the fence, and you could pet them and talk to them and stuff. Anyway, some beautiful grounds, and he was kind of a snowbird where he lived in Costa Rica through the winter and spent his uh, the winters in Georgia and no, anyway, you know what I mean. He was a snowbird. 6 months in Costa Rica, 6 months in Georgia, and he took me out to dinner once. I remember we went to I think like Chinese or Japanese place, and went back to his place and watched Amos and Andy, the old Amos and Andy. They were funny. Um, he wanted me, talking about retirement because he was close to my age, and I was starting to think about it and all. He wanted me to come down to Costa Rica, you know, told me I could retire down there. He actually owned some condos down there that he would have rented to me at a good price. And I thought about it for a minute, but I didn't want to live out of the country. I really did. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to go to Florida, where I ended up. Talk about that more later. So anyway, he was an awesome guy. So I wanted to mention him, and went to a Greek festival with him once, I remember. Also, good man, a lot of fun. Um, okay, then there was okay with Celebrate Atlanta. I remember well, there was this guy that I met. I don't know. I met him dancing Celebrate. Um, very nice looking man. I dated him a little bit. I really liked him a lot. Went to outdoor concert once, I remember. We went to the Metropolitan Club. Now, the Metropolitan Club is a really awesome, like upscale, exclusive uh, club in Alpharetta, Georgia, north of Atlanta. And Celebrate Atlanta would book it every couple of 2 or 3 months and do a dance there with the band and all. Sometimes they would have casino night. And when we would go to the Metropolitan Club, oh, the food was always excellent. Um, and um, we would dress up. It would be like semi-formal, and it was always a good time, a really nice night. And um, I brought him there once, I remember. Um, hung out with him a few times. He liked to do Zydeco, which is the dance they do in New Orleans. And I wasn't into that. I didn't know how to do that. That was his favorite dance, but he did do East Coast swing, and that's what I did with him. And anyway, I did like him. He was not really looking for a serious relationship, and he was close to my age, just a year or two younger. And we talked about retiring and stuff. And he ended up going to New Orleans area. He loved that Zydeco, and that's what he's doing. I um, I was hoping he might come to Florida, hang out with me some more, but he didn't want to do that. He likes the New Orleans, so that's where he is. Um, so I guess I couldn't think of any more. I think that's about my run of the men. Oh, there was another guy. I remember. Okay, I'll tell you about this. This was kind of funny because how I met him. Okay, one night, Celebrate Atlanta. Um, there was a hard rock band playing at this place. It was a different place that I had not been to before in Norcross, which was where I lived, or right next to where I lived. So it was a place that I wanted to check it out. And I really love me some hard rock once in a while. I mean, I don't feel like in that mood all the time, but once in a while I like to hear some, good loud electric guitar wailing. I love that once in a while. So that night I was up for that, and I was meeting my friend Dan there, and it was I went, and I'd never been to this building before, this place. I had my GPS, and I went there, and I went in, and they said cover charge $10, and I'm like, that's odd, because usually if there was a cover charge, which usually Celebrate Atlanta didn't have cover charge, but if there was, Dave would have posted it on the meetup event, would have told us, and it didn't say anything about a cover charge. So I told her, are you sure? Because I'm with Celebrate Atlanta. Are you sure that we have a cover charge for our group? And she said she didn't know anything about Celebrate Atlanta group. So then I knew something was strange. And, I thought, oh my goodness, I must be in the wrong place. But then I looked around again, and I didn't realize before, but it was a strip joint. It was some kind of strip club that I went to by mistake. And I've never been to one of them in my life ever. Um, and anyway, it was in the same building, but it was like around the corner. The entrance was on the other side of the building. So I went there to the right place, and had a good time. Ate, band was great, danced, and hung out with my friend Dan. And there was this other guy there, a new guy that I never met before. So, you know, we met. I don't remember. We probably danced or whatever. Anyway, I went out with him after that once or twice. I don't know. But I remember we were going to the Avalon, which is another place where Celebrate Atlanta would go. Um, Avalon is an upscale outdoor mall. It was new at that time. It was only there a couple years, or I mean, it was just built and opened during this time when I was in my early 60s. And they would have bands there every so often. So they were having a band there this one time. Well, the parking is scarce, the parking is difficult. So for some reason, we had my car. I was with this new guy that I just met. I can't even remember his name, but very nice guy, And I was very open all this time in Celebrate Atlanta. I told myself when I first joined the group, I said, I'm just going to be open, and I'm going to, you know, dance with everybody, and anybody who wants to ask me for a date, I pretty much went out with anybody. At least one time, I figured I'm not going to be closed-minded and say, oh, he's not my type when I don't even know him yet. I'm not going to judge purely on looks or whatever. Most of the men were, you know, decent looking anyway. Um, but I said, I'm gonna be very open-minded about dating. Um, so uh, this guy, for some reason, we were in my car that day. It was light out. Might have got dark. I mean, later, but there was no place to park. So I parked at Whole Foods parking lot, which is huge. Um, but I knew I was, of course, I wasn't really supposed to park there. But I left my car there, took a chance, and when I came back, there was a boot on my car. And it was my fault because I decided to park there rather than pay to park somewhere else. And it was $75 to get that boot taken off. And this guy that I was with, he was so sweet, so nice. He offered and insisted on paying $75 to get my car. And I was very appreciative of that. I thought that was really sweet. So um, I invited him over and cooked dinner for him after that. And he came over, but it wasn't good because I guess at that point, like he wanted the relationship to go up a level, and um, he liked me too much. and you know, he was expecting more than I was thinking about. So I told him, I'm sorry, but I really just want to be just friends. And he got very upset and uh, upset, like he actually started to cry. I felt so bad, but I knew that, you know, he had to go because I wasn't feeling like that. I mean, obviously he was having too much feelings for me that I wasn't feeling the same. So that was a little scary for me. Um, I thought, well, I gotta, nip this in the bud, cut it off before it gets, more intense because I wasn't feeling intense at all. So I told him in a nice way, I said, I really like you. You're off, very sweet, kind. We had some good times, but, I just want to be friends. And he didn't want to leave. I mean, I told him it was time to go, and he was like, he didn't want to leave. Um, I had to kind of, take his arm and walk him down stairs to the parking lot to his car. And it was bad. It was sad for me and him. And I felt so terrible. And after that, I told myself, like, I got to be more careful. Not to lead guys on because I don't want to be a heartbreaker. I don't like to, you know, make a man cry. I mean, that's the first guy I ever saw that cried over me. I mean, and that bothered me. I didn't like that. So I thought, well, I got to be a little more careful and upfront with these guys, I guess, somehow. So that was those stories. Let's see anything else here. I think that's what I wanted to cover for now. Um, Next time, I'm going to be starting to talk about I'm getting close to retirement age now, and I'm going to talk more about my plans, starting to make plans for retirement and that kind of thing. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you continue, and I hope you catch up if you need to. I had a lot of life to tell, and I will be finishing up soon. I still have a little ways to go, but not much. But thank you. God bless.